You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ole Miss fell to Mississippi State tonight in overtime, 84-81, and I am not in my normal deflated state of mind. I literally watched that game, and at the end of it, I felt better about this Ole Miss basketball team than after they went to Tuscaloosa and won the game. There are some things that they need to work on, and we're going to talk about exactly why the deficit happened that forced such a furious comeback and a buzzer beater attempt at the end of overtime to tie the game. It took a Mississippi State, basically a great sequence of events. There's no way anybody can take that away from Mississippi State. Matthew Morrell, there was a scrum in midcourt. They got it to Matthew Morrell. He went to lay it up. Ole Miss was going to go up by 3 points or 4 points maybe. It got blocked. Mississippi State got it, threw it up court for an alley-oop. Cameron Matthews put it out wide, and Mississippi State hit a three-point shot, and they never trailed after that. It was a fantastic play. It was a situation to where this game actually lived up to the hype of the first ranked game between these two opponents. These were just two really great basketball teams going at each other. And Ole Miss, they had a couple of things that if they would have done a little bit differently, they'd have won this game. I think by the end of this game, Ole Miss was the better team. They just were. They dig themselves such a hole at the beginning of the game. I think at the 10-minute mark, they were down by 10 points. They were down by 14-2. They were down by 14 points with 6 minutes to go in the first half. Mississippi State dominated the rebounding. Ole Miss got mauled on the boards, especially in the first half. Mississippi State had 51 rebounds for the game. We talked all the time that one thing that Ole Miss could not do is get mauled on the boards. Ole Miss did. But even with all of that, Ole Miss hit a shot to send it to overtime, and it took a great sequence of events from Mississippi State to win this game. This was the first ranked basketball game that Ole Miss Mississippi State has played, and it lived up to the billing. There's no way it didn't. Mississippi State basketball teams, they play really fun basketball. I enjoy watching them. They're a very good team, and they were a desperate team for this game. And let me tell you why they were a desperate team. They lost to Kentucky and Auburn, which no shame in losing a basketball game to Kentucky and Auburn, especially Auburn on the road. But the next game for Mississippi State was against Tennessee in Knoxville. This simply was a must-win ball game for Mississippi State. And the energy at the beginning of the game, they fed off of it. They were able to kind of take advantage of Ole Miss a little bit because of the cauldron that they created at Humphrey Coliseum. And they got off to the big lead early. Ole Miss hit the slow start again. Ole Miss hit the dominate the second half again, but in overtime, Mississippi State made that one sequence that allowed them to win the game. Great basketball game. Great basketball game. It was a ton of fun, but it was a situation where Malik Dia was taken out. We talked about that pretty much leading up to this basketball game, that eventually teams were going to try and take away Malik Dia, and it was going to be up to Ole Miss to kind of deal with that. And Ole Miss struggled with that in the first half. I think that was a large part of the start that Mississippi State had. So we'll see exactly how that went for Mississippi State. We'll look at the stats. We'll look at all of this. Sean Padula did not have a particularly strong game. He tried to volume shoot. He did a lot of really good things, but there was a sequence where things didn't quite go right for him that kind of hurt Ole Miss late in overtime. And there were little sequences that Ole Miss would have to where they just went through droughts and kind of did some weird stuff, but some really good stuff as well. Michael Brown-Jones played in this game for the first time since the Georgia game. He played actually a good bit as Malik Dia found himself on the sideline for most of the second half of the game. It was a game that Mississippi State just game planned and took away Malik Dia. It happens. It happens. And they were very physical, and Ole Miss decided to go small, to go athletic, to go moving, and all of that. And all of a sudden, Mississippi State was in a little bit of trouble. They had a moment to where they freaked out in the second half of the game. Mississippi State did. And Ole Miss was able to cut that all the way down and went from 14 at the end of the first half. Ole Miss scored the last 6 points. They started with including that, they had a 15-2 run, and all of a sudden it was a 1-point game, and it was a ball game. But to Mississippi State's credit, every time that Ole Miss got it to 2, got it to 1, you got this feeling that Ole Miss, if they ever got even, they were going to be leaving. Mississippi State would go on a little spurt to get it back out to 8 points, a little spurt to get it out to 5 to 6 points. And all of that kept Ole Miss at arm's length over the course of this game. Like I said, normally I come into these things and Ole Miss loses a game and I'm extremely fired up. The whole shtick of this podcast, this instant overreaction, is extremely inflated or extremely deflated, depending on what happened. And this game, I can't muster the strength to be really deflated because I walked out feeling so good about this basketball team. Listen, they have a top 10 game against the Texas A&M Aggies coming up. That's going to be a big one. That's in the Pavilion. They play Missouri in Columbia. That's going to be a big one. There's no nights off. Ole Miss was going to lose some games, and losing a game on the road in overtime is nothing really to shake a stick at. Kentucky lost at home to Alabama today. And it was a situation to where it felt like Alabama could have scored 120 points that game if they wanted to. Tennessee lost against Vanderbilt on the road. It is difficult to win games on the road in this conference. And Ole Miss, even though they dug a huge hole, they were again able to dig out of it and force overtime, but just it wasn't quite enough. The hole they dug was a little bit too big. It's just one of those things going on. So when we come back, we'll look at the box score of this game. And in the third segment, remember, if you're putting in the chat room, put where you are in the chat room and we'll bring your questions up as well. So stick around for that. This message is brought to you by PrizePicks, the place to get real money sports action. With over 10,000 members and billions in winnings, PrizePicks has changed the game in daily fantasy sports. Whether it's the playoffs or the regular season, PrizePicks has made it easier than ever to win big while enjoying all of the football action. Now it's playoff time, and there's no better way to get on the action with PrizePicks. Here's how it works. Simply pick more or less on at least 2 players. If those picks hit, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. That's right. 1,000 times your money just by making a few simple picks. For me, I took Lamar Jackson this weekend and Travis Kelce this weekend. Lamar Jackson with more than 250 passing yards, Travis Kelce with more than 70 receiving yards. It's fun to predict and easy to play. And plus with PrizePicks Flex Play, you can still double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. And with this app, you get your winnings fast, sometimes in as little as 15 minutes. So ready to run your game this football season? Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 just for playing. Don't wait. Take your game to the next level with PrizePicks. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, so let's look at the stats from this game and what actually happened in it. Ole Miss was an 84-81 loser to Mississippi State in this game. They shot 45%. They shot better in the second half, especially from 3. They were 13 for 35 from 3-point range, 10 turnovers, only 29 rebounds. You'll see the discrepancy there. 21 fouls in this game as well. Mississippi State shot 44.6%, 9 of 27 from 3. They had 15 turnovers. They had 51 rebounds. Ole Miss absolutely got mauled on the glass, and it is not surprising there. They had 13 fouls as well. We want to look at what was going on. The big star of the night for Ole Miss, he missed the last shot of the game in overtime that would have tied it, but Jaemyn Breakfield had 20 points in the game on 7 of 12 shooting, 3 of 5 from 3-point range, 3 of 4 on field goals. He had 7 rebounds on the day, 2 assists, 1 steal. Pretty good. 3 fouls on the day. Sean Padula, 7 of 18 shooting, only 3 of 12 from 3, 1 of 4 from the free throw line, had 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals. He played really, really hard and kind of did the volume shooting thing, had 18 points in the game. Matthew Morrell had 15 in the game, was 5 of 10, 2 for 4 from 3, including that huge three-point shot that put them in overtime, went 3 for 4 from the line. 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal for Matthew Morrell. And Jalen Murray was 4-11, 1 for 5 from 3, 1 for 1 from three-point range, had a rebound and an assist, was active. Michael Brown-Jones played a ton in this game. Really no line other than 4 rebounds and an assist. Malik Dia had 8 points, 2 rebounds. It just was not his night. Devin Barnes had 2 points as well. Dre Davis had 5 for the Ole Miss Rebels. For the Bulldogs, they were led by Riley Kugel. He was the one that hit that huge three-point shot that allowed Mississippi State to kind of put that away in overtime. Kashawn Murphy had 17 on the day. Cameron Matthews, 10. RJ Melendez, 12. Josh Hubbard, 12 on 2 of 13 shooting. The thing that everybody needs to keep in mind, Ole Miss did a really good job on Josh Hubbard in this basketball game. A really, really good job. And Ole Miss has a lot going for them there. Again, this Mississippi State team is really good. When you looked at Joe Lunardi coming into this game, Ole Miss was the last 4 seed. Mississippi State was the second to the highest 5 seed. 2 extremely evenly ranked teams played on Mississippi State's floor. And because of that, Mississippi State had the advantage, the energy, and was able to pull out the game. I'm pretty impressed with how it worked out. Mississippi State played well. They got the W that they needed. But this is a really good basketball team that Ole Miss lost to in overtime today. So I'm really looking forward to what's going on. It's going to be important for Ole Miss to try kind of right the ship against Texas A&M on Tuesday night and going into Missouri. It's one of those situations where you have it again. You need to at least split every single week and hopefully go 2-0. And if you can go 2-0, it's going to really stack and move you up the standings. That is the way it's going to go for the Ole Miss Rebels. They have a chance. They have a real chance to do it. Again, like I said, I am more fired up about what this basketball team could be after this game than after the Alabama win in Tuscaloosa. You're going to lose games. It's not a situation. There's a lot of people that might have a football mentality of won and lost going into games. With basketball, you can't really do that because you play so many games, you're going to lose games. Losing that game so close on the road, that's encouraging. Now, there's no such thing as moral victories. You still lost the game. You still need to make that up if you want to get where you're going. But this tells me you can. Ole Miss had a lot of pressure coming off of that Alabama game into the Mississippi State game and did not start well at all. They actually got mauled on the boards. There were things going against them all night. And this team found enough courage and determination to fight their way into this game and into overtime. And they took their first lead of the ball game in overtime. That is what this team did tonight. They almost willed themselves to a win on the road against a team that was absolutely desperate. So if you're not fired up about exactly where this Ole Miss basketball team sits after this week, I don't know if I can help you. But this basketball team has a chance to be really good for Ole Miss moving forward. Anyway, when we come back, we are going to take your comments. Remember, on your comments, put where you're commenting from and your name so we can talk about that as well. We'll also talk about Thaddeus Dixon committing to North Carolina a little bit in the comment section whenever we get into that as well. So we'll take this opportunity to take your questions. So stick around. You know, from the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets. If that first $5 bet wins, that's $300 to keep the action going. FanDuel has an app that is easy to navigate. The variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for those winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add a little extra excitement for the playoffs, FanDuel has got you covered. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That is FanDuel.com. Make the season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, so let's get into the comment section a little bit and find out what's going on. What questions you have, the things that's going on in your world. A lot of people. This is from K. Milam. How mad are you, Steven? I'm not mad at all. I know that this instant overreaction is me being extremely inflated or extremely deflated. That's kind of the whole purpose of it. Not really mad at all. It's a situation to where I feel better after this game than I did after the Alabama game. Ole Miss was not going 18-0 in the SEC. They were going to lose games. It's better to lose them on the road. Obviously, nobody likes to lose to Mississippi State, but historically in this series, Mississippi State wins in Starkville, Ole Miss wins in Oxford. It doesn't matter how good the teams are. That seemingly always happens. So I did go into this in my own way. Saints fans 04 says it definitely wasn't Padula's night. Some of those shots, yeah, he was trying really, really hard. Really, really hard. And I think he just kind of got taken over by the moment a little bit. Padula's going to be fine. Everything's going to be good. But he did have a couple of sequences that were problematic at best. Brian Wesley says, I've seen more effort from City League basketball teams when it comes to rebounding. They deserve that loss. And effort wasn't their problem tonight. Some of it was bad luck, like long rebounds that just kind of found areas that Ole Miss wasn't. Some of it was the fact that Mississippi State's a pretty big team and Ole Miss isn't a very big team. And at the end of the game, the effective one that allowed Ole Miss to score was a much smaller lineup to where Michael Brown-Jones was playing in the center and Jaemyn Breakfield was playing the four. And when that happens, you're going to be problematic rebounding the ball. But at the beginning of the game, when Ole Miss tried to play them straight up, they got their butts kicked rebounding the ball. Mississippi State had 51 rebounds for the game, and that just will not fly moving forward. Mark Wall says Morrell has to take the ball stronger to the hoop. It was a big swing. I love him, but he needs to be tougher. Yeah, you're correct. Don't hear me say that you're not correct. I think that Morrell was surprised that somebody was behind him for whatever reason. Maybe his court awareness and all that was looking to, I don't know, happen to change. But yes, that sequence where Morrell had the block shot that led to the three-point shot that kind of put the game away. It was a great game, by the way. I do want to say this. This was the first game in the history of Ole Miss versus Mississippi State, the Hoops Egg Bowl, where both teams were ranked, and the game absolutely lived up to billing. I was scared after the first 10 minutes of that game that it was going to be just a beatdown. It wasn't. Ole Miss fought back into the game, actually took control of that game at parts in the second half, and Mississippi State did a good job that every time that Ole Miss cut it to one in that second half of that game, they'd have a little mini run. And it would just keep Ole Miss at arm's length. They did a really good job. This was two really good basketball teams, and they played like it. Rex Thompson says rebounding needs to improve. Yeah, rebounding will improve. They rebounded better against Alabama. They rebounded better against Georgia and LSU. Mississippi State just kind of took advantage of it. It's just the way it worked out. It happens from time to time, but Mississippi State has a lot of big physical guys that are athletic that could take advantage of Ole Miss's height deficiency. And they were able to do that a little bit as well. Tristan McMullen, terrible day for Ole Miss fans. Yes, Thaddeus Dixon committed to North Carolina. I'm assuming that Thaddeus Dixon was already registered at North Carolina because the last day for registering was Wednesday. Although North Carolina, I'm not going to put it past them to do something skeezy for athletics because they are known for doing that as well. So, but according to their academic calendar, Wednesday was the last day to register. So, but he was a big get. He was the one miss that Ole Miss really had in the transfer portal. There were other 50-50s that Ole Miss didn't win. This was the miss. This was the one player that could have been a Trey Amos or a Walter Nolan or a Princely Mielen in the portal. Could have done that. This one was a miss. So it's going to come down to, Chris Graves and TJ Banks and those guys in the secondary to kind of step up. Cedric Beavers, he was injured most of last year at JUCO, that has to show up on the defensive side of the ball. I have no doubt that Pete Golding's going to put a good defense out there. None whatsoever. The dominant players and the way that you can make things happen, it makes you kind of wonder. But nobody out there is going to cost them a game. Mark Walsh, we have a deep bench. No idea where Dio was late in the game. Too much Davis, in my opinion. Dre Davis is an athletic wing on the end there is basically does stuff like Jason Smith, if you want to think about 90s Ole Miss. That's what Dre Davis has given to this team. He's not a super scorer, but he gives a lot of effort and extremely athletic wing type player and makes the defense tick at a higher level. This is a defense to offense team when everything is going. Dre Davis can really help. Malik Dia at the late in the game, he just wasn't effective early in the game, and Ole Miss went small, and they had some success on defense. So that is what's going there. Tim Thomas says rebounding, period. Yes, Ole Miss absolutely got destroyed on the boards. They could not get mauled. They absolutely got mauled. Props to Mississippi State. If Ole Miss was just, 45 to 37 in the rebounding, Ole Miss wins this game by 6 or 7 points. But too many second chance points and offensive rebounds. James Hall from Brookhaven, it was a tough, hard-fought game. I enjoyed watching. Good luck, Rebels. Next game out, hotty toddy. Yes, absolutely. Like I said, I felt better after this game than I did after the Alabama game as far as what this team could be in March. This was a tough team. And the way this game started, we've all seen the way this game started and the way it goes. We've seen that turn into a 25-point deficit by halftime. We've seen that game. We know what it looks like, and Ole Miss to stop the bleeding and figure out a way to claw back. That was encouraging. That really was. Brian Wesley says late in the game, Mississippi State had 3 shot clock possessions and 1 trip down the floor. Losing it was inevitable, but losing because of lack of effort on the board should be the problem. It happens. It just happens. Let's see. Why not in a tight rivalry game give the seniors the ball and a shot at it? I think in 4 seconds they were just looking for whoever could get the ball. They couldn't necessarily be choosy at the end of the game. You could run a play to get the ball to Matthew Morrell or Sean Padula or whoever you want to take the shot, but the defense is going to dictate where that ball goes. And the defense allowed it to go to Jaemyn Breakfield, and he just missed the shot. Sam Aldridge, your analysis of this game and performance of each player is spot on tonight. This game should be one to encourage Ole Miss fans more than deflate them. Yeah, it was, like I said, I've seen the other end of this game, even in the Mississippi State game. It's been many times that Ole Miss has gone into Starkville and emotionally went off on a run, and next thing you know, it's 25-point lead at halftime. I've seen that game. I know what it looks like. And Ole Miss being able to stop the bleeding and get back into it and having a chance to win the game in overtime, that was a big deal, man. That was a really big deal against a really good team. Remember, State was ranked, 16th in the country, something like that? Their only losses in the conference is to Auburn. No shame in that, and they lost to Kentucky. That happens. I saw a lot of one-sided calls tonight. Stars, I don't know necessarily. It was the way it was officiated tonight. I just didn't have a problem with refereeing. I just didn't one way or another. I can't make myself be mad at the way this game was officiated. Larry Fletcher says, I'm very proud of our team. Coming back like that and into overtime shows a lot of character and toughness. This team is being built in Chris Beard's image, period. There's no way that it happens. I am extremely encouraged about this basketball team. And a loss to State, you would think I would have been down in the dumps. And after Ole Miss lost Dixon and all of that and lost to State, it should be terrible for Ole Miss fans. It should be hurt so bad. No, I'm not. I'm not going to play that game because what I saw in this basketball game, as long as Ole Miss can turn that around against Texas A&M and against Missouri next week, Ole Miss is going to be fine. Ole Miss still has a chance to be 6-1 after next week. Just defend home court against Texas A&M and beat Missouri in Columbia. You have a chance. I think this Ole Miss team on the road is going to compete. You have won at Arkansas, you've won at Alabama, and you took Mississippi State to overtime. Why can't Ole Miss go to Columbia and win the game? Seriously. Now, I'm going to pick Missouri to win the game because that's kind of my shtick, but we'll see exactly how that goes. Sometimes you need Adam Alvis. Sometimes you need a loss like this to get better. This isn't UNLV and Jerry Tarkanian. Nobody goes undefeated. Yeah, it's not. It's a situation that is great. Tennessee lost to Vanderbilt today. Kentucky lost to Alabama at home. It happens. Games get lost in this conference. It's the toughest conference in college basketball, and it's not particularly close. So we'll see what's going on. Star says, I had a feeling we weren't going to land Dixon because we picked up the Washington State commit. Washington State commit was a replacement for Cisse. If they'd have gotten Cisse, they wouldn't have got the Washington State commit. They did not pick him up over Dixon. The Washington State kid is an interior, like a John Saunders type defensive back. Keidra Jones says, a great game. I see potential in this team. Yeah, I am looking forward to what tournament time could be for Ole Miss basketball. Star says, I'd still like to see more of Bowl need SEC experience. Yeah, but tonight was not the night to put him in. Tonight, chewed up freshmen and spit them out. You remember, you didn't see Eduardo Klafke in the second half of this game either. This is a game where you needed grown men playing basketball, and those guys were able to kind of keep it going. James Hall says, congrats to Morrell for moving into the top 10 at Ole Miss scoring. Yes, congratulations for that. We still have Jalen Braxton and the Washington State guy and Antonio Kite. You forgot about Antonio Kite. Ole Miss has 3 cornerbacks that they brought in, and they have a extremely talented true freshman class with Keon Young, LaDarian Clardy, and Cortez Thomas, 2 of which played in the Under Armour All-American game. So Ole Miss is going to be fine. Star says, James here, hotty toddy from Alabama. Colin Wright. Anyone else think that flagrant call on Ole Miss in the second half was complete BS? Yeah, it was terrible. They just said, I think they said he pulled the offensive player down or something like that. And like you said, it kind of killed the momentum that Ole Miss had at the time, and it would turn into like a 4-point trip. It was one of those little mini runs that Mississippi State was able to do. Brian Wesley says, I can't help but they get more trip to the free throw line if they would drive the ball down the paint more. That is absolutely true, but there's a chance that other than Malik Dia, there's not somebody that can finish the ball with contact. Breakfield has some great finesse moves in there, but there's not really a bully player other than Dia, and he wasn't on the floor most of the night. So Cafe says, I expected an 8-point loss. It was closer than I anticipated. Brian Wesley says, I noticed when they did get in the paint, they didn't finish the play, but they didn't kick the ball out nearly fast enough to open players' shots were there. Mundus Nova says, I'd normally be pissed, but it was an overtime loss on the road against a legit top 20 team in a wild atmosphere. We didn't fold like a cheap umbrella when we got down by 12. Yes, exactly. My point exactly. Should be pretty interesting. So thanks everybody for tuning into this instant overreaction, and we'll put it up on the podcast site as well. Just know if you watch it on video, we're also available wherever you get your podcast. You can check it out there, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. And remember, everybody, analytics is just the old English word for bad football. We'll see you later, everybody. Hotty toddy.